Greetings. Welcome to our research class for counseling. My name is Grafton. Technically, it's Dr. Grafton Eliason. You can call me Grafton. You can call me Dr. Eliason. Um, we're in graduate school. Everybody's adults. So, yeah, I'm okay with Grafton. Um, the you know, I usually call students by their first name, so it's only fair. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about me and this class in general, and then we will focus on the syllabus and D2L and more specifics. So I've been teaching research a long time. And the first thing I'd like to say is that when I was a very young child, I started school early and, K through 12. And by the time I got to middle school, things that had once come easily for me no longer did, specifically math. We were getting into algebra and more abstract thoughts. And and I wasn't doing as well, and teachers were a little critical, and uh, so I was kind of turned off with any type of math or stats or anything like that, and I just stuck to, the most basic math that I could um, until I graduated. Um, and I wasn't. I didn't really like school K through 12, but I graduated early. I was already working uh, at North American Moving Company, and but I was living at home, and my parents said, "Hey, I know you've got a job, but we'd like you to give college a try." And I was dreading it. But I went to Shippensburg University, which is in central Pennsylvania. It's one of our state schools. It looks very much like Edinboro, Clarion, California campuses for Penn West. And and the professors, uh, were very different than many of the teachers I had uh, earlier. And they took an interest in me and they took time with me, and I liked the classes a lot better. And I found subjects I was interested in. I was um, English lit and psychology, and um, I felt like it was a different, kinder learning experience where my professors cared and were willing to help me in whatever I needed. And I always thought in the back of my mind, wow, that would be my dream job. And I never thought I would become a professor. And if I did, I thought it might be for English lit or something like that. But I started reading about a lot of different religions and spirituality, and uh, so I applied to all different. Um, when I was about ready to graduate from Shippensburg, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I applied to all kinds of writing programs throughout the country. And one of my professors knew that I was interested in culture and religion, and he said, "Why don't you just apply to one religion program?" And basically, just to humor him, I applied to one of the better ones, not thinking I would be accepted. But as it turns out, I was not accepted to all of the writing programs, and I was accepted to the one uh, program on religions and cultures and cross-cultural religious studies, and uh, and that was at Princeton. Um, So I ended up going there, ended up studying in India for a while, and um, I was still pretty young, 20. And it was really an eye-opening experience. I also got um, interested in grief and loss and pastoral care and counseling. That's kind of what there was always kind of like this interest in psychology and counseling, but it was always like a minor or, you know, a concentration or something like that. Um, when I graduated uh, from there, um, I had a number of different jobs and but um, they always put me in contact with people who needed some type of emotional help, and I didn't feel qualified to provide that. So I went back to Shippensburg, um, got a degree in a program just like this in school counseling, and even though I didn't have a good experience in K through 12 myself, I wanted other kids to have a good experience. So I became an elementary school counselor and I loved it. And then, eventually one of my old professors called me and said, "Hey, they're starting this new program at Duquesne. Why don't you get your doctorate before life happens? Time moves quickly." And I've taught at different places, Duquesne and St. Vincent's and the Citadel, and directed a program at Chatham. And but this job became available at what used to be California University. Now it's Penn West. And, it really is my dream job. I love working with students and teaching. And, you know, um, I think we all should be able to transcend our dichotomies. Work should be play. Work should be something we truly enjoy. And so not only do I enjoy working with students, but I think that each of you will go out into the world and do some good and help others. And it's a valuable career, helping others. And so there's a lot more, but I started off in the story saying, wow, I hated math. I didn't do well. But as I moved through these different degrees and all kinds of different jobs, uh, you know, um, I, I did not come from a family that had much money or finances, and so I've always worked, and so I had graduate assistantships and things like that to help pay for school. And one of the things I did like in high school was back in like 1982, they came out with the first personal computers because I grew up in a very rural area, lots of farms. Um, the school got a grant and they got a computer lab with Apple computers, the very first ones, Apple IIe's. And I learned basic programming and Apple DOS and some other types of skills. And I really enjoyed doing that, although I never wanted to make a career out of it. But it's always helped me. So most of my graduate assistantships were helping professors uh, with some type of technology or research. So when I had a graduate assistantship and professors needed help, it was usually with statistics programs on computers. Well, this allowed me to see math and statistics in a completely new way. I also think that our minds develop at different paces, and uh, because I was young in middle school, maybe I wasn't ready to understand all those abstract mathematical concepts. Um, but uh, as I worked with professors, they not only had me help them with statistics and programs and um, research, but they taught me about the research process. And I grew to love research. And we'll talk about some of the things I've researched when I use them as examples in the future in this class. Just to give you a little example, um, it would be very difficult uh, to do the statistical analysis by hand with some of the larger research projects. And so I had sold my Apple IIe and bought a IBM XT, the very first IBM personal computer. And back then we used a statistics program called IBM Statistics with an X at the end. And we would type in all the data, and when the data set was typed in, and we had to program the statistics program to tell it what type of formula we wanted to use to analyze the data. And we would push the return button or the enter button, and we'd go to dinner. And we'd have coffee after dinner, hang out. By the time we got back to the dorm room, hopefully the computer had completed the formula after a few hours. My second year in grad school, I built a new computer called a 286 AT. That's a second generation of computers. And we had just typed in a new data set. I pressed the button. We put our coats on to go out to the cafeteria for dinner. And we were just about ready to leave the room, and I heard a beep, and I thought something was wrong. And I'm like, now I'm going to be late for dinner. And I looked, and it was done. We were amazed at how fast just the second generation of computers was able to analyze the data. Now, all of this talk is statistics. Don't worry, you don't have to do any statistics. I'm more concerned about the research process, how you would develop a study, doing a literature review, all of that. And throughout this semester, I'm going to walk you through each part of it step by step, week by week, little parts each week. It's not going to be overwhelming. You don't have to do the actual study. You just have to propose the study. So you won't have to do any data analysis, although you could if you wanted to. I've had many students go on and run the study and present at conferences and get published. Um, so it will be possible to do that. But sigh of relief, no, you don't have to do that. You'll have to learn some vocabulary. I have all of my personal notes that I used to study for the NCE and the comps, and I'm just giving them to you to use as a study guide. And so I'd like to continue beyond talking about myself. I want to talk more about you and what you might glean from this experience. And I'm hoping that this will not just be busy work, that you will be able to apply what you've learned in this class to your own future clients. So hopefully you'll be able to pick a population that you'd like to work with in the future. And you'll be able to apply everything you learn in this class to your future work as a therapist. That's the whole goal of research in counseling, is to be able to better help your clients and to share that knowledge with other other counselors so that we can all learn and grow together and better help people in need. So that's one of the goals. Another goal might be um, if you are interested in going on in a doctoral program, uh, we don't really recommend doing theses, uh, but you need something to set you apart from other applicants to these doctoral programs at other schools. So this class could provide a really nice way um, to get accepted into a doctoral program if that's something you're interested in. They always ask for a sample of writing, and but what would actually set you apart is if you take this research and you present it at a conference, or if you publish it in some way. And the first step is always presenting it at a conference. And we have had a lot of students do that and get accepted to doctoral programs. Like I said, if that's something you're interested in doing. But that usually sets you apart from other candidates for those uh, that application process. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my philosophy of teaching. And my philosophy of teaching is very different than most other professors. Um, it's called mastery learning. And I don't give a lot of multiple choice exams, even though it'd be a lot easier to grade them. But I'm a much more project oriented uh, person. I enjoy learning that way. I enjoy learning something and then applying that knowledge and having some type of finished work at the end of it that I can use. Just taking an exam is really uh, not the way I like to learn. With that being said, there will be an exam at the end of your degree. In fact, there'll be two. There'll be the comps, so you can graduate, and there'll be the NCE, the National Counseling Exam, in order to get your LPC, your license. They're both put out by the same company, so they're very similar. When I took them, I figured I'm studying for one, I might as well take both of them. Why study twice? So, with that being said, even though this is a project-oriented class, I highly recommend reading the chapters in the book each week and studying the notes, using my notes as a comprehensive study guide for these larger exams. You cannot wait until you're ready to take those larger exams. It's just too much to study. You have to study each class and learn it in a way that you will retain that knowledge long term. You can't cram for these larger exams. And even more important than the exams, you need to learn all of this counseling material in a way that you'll be able to remember it so that you can better help clients in the future. So, what is mastery learning? Mastery learning is if you hand in an assignment, let's say you hand in an article review. Uh, if you make a mistake or it needs something else that's missing, um, I let you rewrite it until it's correct. So I wish all courses were pass-fail, but they're not. But my goal is for you to succeed. That means I'm doing my job. I'm a good teacher. If you succeed, my goal is not to give A's, B's, C's, whatever to fail people. My goal is to help you to succeed, to get the highest grade possible. I don't want to go to a medical doctor that got a B or a C. I want one that knows the material. So mastery learning is being able to master or understand and apply what I believe the minimum basic knowledge in this topic, research, um, is needed. So, you know, the only thing that you can't rewrite are the things turned in on the last class because we're just out of time, um, and grades will be due. So that's the only thing you won't have the opportunity to rewrite. But because we do this step by step, uh, and by the time you get to your final projects, uh, you will have rewritten and revised things, and they'll be ready to hand in. I think the only time people don't get an A is if they don't rewrite things or don't hand things in, and then my hands are tied. I can't do anything to help if you haven't handed something in. So that's the goal, for you to be successful, to learn the material so that you'll be able to carry that with you and help others in the future, pass those larger exams later on. And, you know, a lot of times people see research as either stressful or boring, but, and sometimes it is. Some of the lectures are not that exciting. It's not like my theories class or my diagnosis class where I've got all these interesting stories about patients. But, I think that, um, I'm hoping you'll get something meaningful from this class. And I'll do my best to help you uh, with that, to help you succeed.